Okay, now we're getting ready to do the demo. We want to show you how the stain can be applied to wet wood or dry wood. So I'm going to dip each one is marked for our demo today. It is November 6, 2020. We have the wood marked. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to put the wet wood one right in water, bucket of water. And we're going to make sure it's good and soaked. So this is representative of being able to stain the wet or dry wood. And what we're going to do is we're just going to give it a little sling and let that dry off a little bit as I talk a little bit about the wood. So we have our dry wood and wet wood, and we're going to put stain on that in just a moment. So what I wanted to talk about is the fact that our stain, our deck and wood stain, is penetrating. It really is a water base that performs and acts like an oil. So this will go into the wood, and that's what's great about contractor type stains or contractor grade stains is when they go into the wood like that, what happens is as they wear on the top, then what happens is you come back into a light clean and then you replenish it. When you have film forming products that sit on the surface, like many water bases do, what happens is, in some oils, what happens is when they go away, you're just exposed to the wood and you reinvent the wheel every time you want the deck done. These are maintainable products and they're very, very easy to use. So what we're going to do is, we do recommend you apply 2 coats of this. So we recommend a wet on wet coat. And what we try to recommend is usually within 30 minutes of the first coat, you put on a first coat. In this instance, we're actually using our Deck Restoration Plus Deck and Wood Stain Seneca Brown Tone. It's probably one of our most popular colors. It comes up when it dries as more of a light brown tone. So we put coat 1 on there. And like I said, we usually recommend a wet, this is our wet wood that I just dipped into the bucket. And what we do is we recommend a wet on wet coat, like I said, within 30 minutes. If you have a small size deck and you want to do the whole deck, you could do the whole deck and then come back on it like an hour later if you wanted to do it. It doesn't dry that fast. Well, the idea is we don't want it to completely dry before we put on that second coat. Oil bases work the same way. A lot of them are wet on wet. Don't let the first coat dry completely. This is the same way, although this is more forgiving than an oil, because once an oil is dry, you're done. You can't put on a second coat because then the oil doesn't get into the wood and it can actually attract mold and mildew. Our product will not do that. So it's really nice, it's really easy to use, and you don't have to worry about that mold and mildew issue. So for, like I said, wet on wet, so you just let it sit up a little bit. And again, for the purpose of the demo, go right back on it with the second coat. You can see that, and then we're going to put it on the wet wood, the second coat. Just kind of go over it again. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give this about 30 minutes to an hour, and we're going to come back and we'll be able to see how these turned out and that they are basically the same color and tone. You won't be able to tell the difference between the wet wood and the dry wood. See you in a few minutes. Hi, I'm Everett Abrams, the Wizard of Wood of Deck Restoration Plus Deck and Wood Stain, and I'm back again to talk about our samples that we did on our demo. Again, we put one of these in wood and water and soaked the wood in the water, and then we stained it almost immediately. And then we put the other one on dry wood, and we used our Seneca Brown Tone. As you can tell, there is really not any difference between the 2 colors, the 2 tones. 2 boards. And also what's neat is, I told you water bases, they actually go into the wood, so you can see where this is a better showing here of the side where it actually went into the wood. It doesn't sit on the top, so it does penetrate. And what I did was I actually reversed these. So when you turn this over, this is actually the wet wood, which I had the wet wood on this side, and this is the dry wood. So if you were looking at it and trying to guess, you probably guessed wrong. And if you did guess right, it was just a guess, because as you can see, they look the same. And that's why our stain is so great. It can be applied to wet wood, dry wood, damp wood. It doesn't make any difference. It's easy to schedule. It's easy for a homeowner. It's also easy for a contractor, especially those that have tight schedules. And that happens to both. A homeowner has a tight schedule. They work during the week. They want to get it done on a weekend. They don't want to do it a series of weekends. If this is a landscaper or a painter or someone that's on schedule, they have their next job to get to, this keeps you on point and on schedule. Deck Restoration Plus Deck and Wood Stain, wet or dry wood, and that's your demo.